Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we have had so much fun trying out all of the features like Q&As and polls that let us be really creative and engage with our audience. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
Today, on episode 47 of Podcast Royal, we chat with Christopher Andersen, author of the explosive new book, Brothers and Wives, which claims to answer the question of who made the comment heard around the world about the skin color of Harry and Meghan's future children. Plus, Princess Charlene checks into a treatment facility. We have a double royal christening, and Meghan makes her first talk show appearance since marrying Harry. All of this and more right here, right now. Welcome back to episode 47 of Podcast Royal. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was absolutely wonderful. We were just talking about how it feels like it's been a million years since we've hung out.
I know. When we skip a week, it feels like forever.
It was a good break for me, but breaks always go by way too fast. I was traveling, visiting family, and one thing that was really, really nice was I spent a lot more time outside this last week than I feel like I have in a while because I work from home, and it's so easy when you work from home to not make a point of just getting outside regularly every day. And I did that and absolutely loved it. So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was really nice. So we have this tradition of going to this kind of luxury resort hotel here in Birmingham. It is so nice to not have to travel for the holiday. When I was in graduate school at Ole Miss and my family still lived back in Kansas, I had to make the trek home, whether it was on a plane, driving. When I was super poor in graduate school, I would sometimes even take the train. That was an experience. And so it's so nice to not have to do that because my mom relocated to Birmingham about in 2015, so almost 7 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow.
And so traveling has its perks, but over the holidays, I will say it is so nice to not have to travel. And we had a delicious meal, and it was really good and relaxing. And I did not realize how much I needed those 4 days off because I've made no bones about this. I've started a new full-time job. I love it, but it's a huge shock going back into the office 40 hours a week, and it's a shock to the system,
Sure, for sure.
So it was nice. What are you into this week, my dear?
So, I'm into a couple of things. The first one I have to mention is the mostly paleo pecan pie I made for Thanksgiving. And I say mostly because I think there might have been one ingredient in there that wasn't technically paleo, but it was a totally gluten-free, natural sugars, real organic ingredients, pecan pie, and it turned out really delicious. Whenever you tweak recipes and try to make them healthy, you never really know. And this was my first time making this one. And the funny thing is I didn't tell anyone except for my mom and sister that it was a healthier version. And everybody enjoyed it and nobody noticed.
That's when you have conquered the healthy cooking world. It tasted really good.
It was fabulous. So I'm into that, and I'm thinking I'll have to make another one during Christmas. The other thing I am into this week is really just getting into the Christmas spirit. I know
Mhm.
a lot of people have probably already started decorating for Christmas. Since I was traveling last week, I was on the hunt for a tree. So I don't have it up yet, but it's on my list this week. I'll be decorating my tree. I'll be putting up some garland. I know I talked about on a previous episode decorating with some natural elements. So I did buy some oranges at the grocery
Mhm.
store this week, and I'm going to try that method where you put them on like a cookie sheet and you dry them out in the oven and
Mhm.
string them with your garland. I'm going to do that this week. And for our listeners, if you have an Amazon Alexa, I hope I'm not setting anyone's off right now, but ask her to play some of the awesome Christmas playlists out there. I've been listening to like the classic Christmas hymns. There's a Christmas jazz station, or if you're into pentatonics, she's got their songs as well. So lots of good stuff. And I'm just in the Christmas spirit.
So
What are
am
you
I.
into?
I'm really, 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 really in the Christmas spirit this year. I mean, I'm like not a hardcore die hard Christmas person. I like Christmas just as much as the next person, but I am extra in the spirit this year. And I don't know why, but I like it. Like there's so many Christmas movies that I really don't like watching because they're so emotional and they make me cry. Like It's a Wonderful Life and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer makes me cry. Frosty the Snowman makes me cry. And so I really kind of avoid all of the more sentimental Christmas movies because I just don't want to get emotional. But this year I said to my mom last night, I said, okay, we've got to find on our streaming services It's a Wonderful Life, White Christmas, all of these movies that normally I avoid. And she's like, what's going on with you? Are you okay? But I'm just really into the spirit this year.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's just, and it's really kind of being into that, classic true meaning of Christmas spirit,
Yes.
and just focusing on, that time with family and those things about the holidays that are really what Christmas is all about.
Yeah, and I was about to say I'm not a materialistic person. I'm a minimalist. I don't even really care about gifts. It's really more about the reason for the season. But I'm about to contradict myself because I'm about to tell you what I'm into this week and it's all materialism. So I wanted to say first that I'm into a few days off. As I said, that was lovely. We missed you listeners last week, but it was nice to relax with our families for the US Thanksgiving holiday. So yesterday, we were recording this on Tuesday, November 30th. Yesterday was Cyber Monday. I I definitely did my part to stimulate the economy yesterday, although it was Cyber Monday. So I'm going to tell you the things I got, and then I want you to guess how much I spent on all of this. So this is what I bought. I made beauty products my theme of the year. So I got Laura Mercier Illuminating Eye Cream, Ritual Multivitamins, Ollie Probiotic, I can't even say the word, probiotic vitamins, MAC Ruby Woo lipstick. That's a deep red shade that is just beautiful. A shade of blush by NARS that has the initials DT that is probably inappropriate to say on this show, so I will refrain. The Summer Fridays jet lag mask. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but guess how much I spent on all of that?
Wow. Gosh, I don't know that it's my strong suit guessing cosmetic prices, but I would say, I mean, without discounts, we're probably pushing, gosh, $300. So, I'll throw out, let's see, 250 maybe.
$156
Wow, you've
for
scored.
all of that. I love Cyber Monday. So I never buy stuff for myself. I really don't. And so it was kind of nice to just go down my list that I have of beauty products I've wanted for so long and actually be able to buy some of them because they were 40% off or 30% off or 25% off. So um that so that's probably like the only gifts I'll get myself for a really long time. But I heard that Black Friday sales were down, which makes me sad. And so I decided to stimulate the economy for Cyber Monday. So, and also I just wanted some beauty products. So Okay, well, we are going to merge into the royal rundown. So we have quite a big one because we've got 2 weeks to catch up on. So this is going way back to a couple of weeks ago, but Camilla and Charles wrapped up their royal tour to Jordan and Egypt. That was, of course, their first overseas visit since the pandemic. To me, one of the highlights was seeing the couple dip their fingers into the Jordan River, which is where Christians like us believe Jesus to have been baptized by John the Baptist. So the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall are said to have flown home with several bottles of the water, which will be used for future royal christenings, including, I hope, Lily's in the future, Sienna's in the future, and I'm sure it was used for the dual christenings of August and Lucas on November 21st. What a blessing that they were finally able to do this and to do it at Windsor so the Queen could be there and to have a happy occasion on what surely would have been a hard weekend for her, the Queen's first November 20th, which is her wedding anniversary without Philip. Mike Tyndall, who is Zara's husband and Lucas's father, even went on his podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Rugby, which is a great name, and said the day was lovely. So, don't you think this had to have lifted Her Majesty's spirits?
Yes, definitely. I thought it was really cool that they did a joint christening. And I think it was probably pretty special for the whole family being there. You know, I hadn't really thought about Her Majesty's first anniversary without her husband. And I can imagine that would be very difficult, especially, having spent so many years with someone. I just feel for that day for her and having to experience that day on
Mhm.
her own. But I think it did lift her spirits to be there with the family. And I think, it was probably really special for all of them. And I'm wondering when we'll see little Sienna be christened, because I'm sure she's also coming up on the list of royal christenings. So, yeah, I think that was probably a really special family event.
Well, the royal boys have had their turn. Is it too much to ask for another dual christening, this time with the girls, Lily and Sienna? Is that too much to ask? Probably. But this would have been the Queen and Philip's 74th wedding anniversary. So can you even imagine being married for 73 and a half years? I mean, and that
Wow.
would have been such a difficult weekend. And I'm so glad that she got to spend it with family and celebrating two new young men in the family. So I'm really glad that that got to work out. And how cool is it that they got to use? I mean, I'm assuming they used the water from the River Jordan. I mean, how special is that? That's incredible. So
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
yeah, so speaking of Philip, we finally have a US air date for Prince Philip, The Royal Family Remembers. It will air on Discovery Plus on December 16th. We need to find a way to watch that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking, does it seem like there have been quite a few royal shows on Discovery Plus, or am I just so used to hearing about this one that it feels
No,
like
because
multiple
all the
shows?
Earthshot content was on Discovery
That's
Plus.
right. That's right. Yeah, I feel like that's I guess it's going to become one of our royal streaming services for us to get content.
Who would have thought?
I
Discovery Plus.
know.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna talk in a little bit about the Princes in the Press, which is, I hope, will come to some streaming service. I don't care if it's Discovery Plus or what it is, but um I really think we need to find a way to watch the Prince Philip documentary, because apparently everyone's so candid, and obviously, he's just such a beloved member of the family. So we will find a way. I do not have Discovery Plus, but maybe I will have to get Discovery Plus if this is becoming the royal streaming network of choice here in the US. So while on tour, and this is back to the Jordan and Egypt tour, Charles was asked about his mother, the Queen's health, to which he replied she was all right. Continuing, once you get to 95, it's not quite as easy as it used to be. It's bad enough at 73. It's bad enough at 35, let me tell you. So, good news is we've seen Her Majesty entertaining in person guests at Windsor Castle. She did attend the joint christening, so she seems to be doing okay. So, that I can exhale a little bit. So Charles is in the news for a lot of things this week. We're going to talk about Christopher Andersen's claims from his book in our interview with him. So we're just going to save that for the interview. But at the moment, he is in, and again, keep in mind, we are recording this on Tuesday, November 30th. He is in Barbados right now. He is attending a ceremony marking the country's transition from a Commonwealth realm with the Queen as head of state to a republic with its own president. This is the first time a member of the royal family has attended such a ceremony, which I'm, obviously very glad he is. This is a huge moment for Barbados, but it's also a little strange, right? Like, thank you for no longer needing us. Um, maybe that's just me. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I totally agree.
I mean, that's like saying thanks for, saying we don't need you anymore. I mean, this is a big deal for Barbados. And the Queen also sent along her well wishes, saying in part, as you celebrate this momentous day, I send you and all Barbadians my warmest good wishes for your happiness, peace, and prosperity in the future. So I've asked this question on the show before. Is this indicative of a domino effect that could come after her reign ends? We won't know until we know, but this is a big moment for Barbados. Rihanna was there. I mean, that's where she's from. So, but Charles is there. I don't know. That just seems kind of strange to me. But a lot of things these days in the royal family seem strange to me. But Meghan had her moment to dazzle a couple of weeks ago in red. It was Kate's turn to dazzle last week as she and William stepped out William didn't step out in it too, just Kate in a gorgeous emerald Jenny Packham gown, which is a rewear from she and William's Pakistan trip in 2019. The Cambridges were on hand for the annual Royal Variety performance in London, which supports the Royal Variety charity. The money raised from the event helps hundreds of entertainers throughout the UK who need help and assistance for a variety of reasons, including ill health and old age. The performance featured Ed Sheeran, James Blunt, and Rod Stewart, among others. And this year, William and Kate were joined by the Middletons, Kate's dad, Michael, mom, Carol, brother James, and brand new sister-in-law Alize. 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 And she's Alize Middleton now. So I don't have to mispronounce her last name anymore. So do you appreciate Kate's rewears like I do? Because I distinctly remember that dress from the Pakistan trip in 2019, and I thought she looked beautiful.
Yeah, well, first I want to say Alize has a pretty cool setup right now. She gets to live with her new husband, but experience some of the fun of royal life as well. So that's really awesome that Kate's family was there with them. Regarding the dress, so I do and I don't appreciate the rewear. And I say that kind of jokingly. I mean, yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate the consideration of her rewearing these gowns. It shows that she's conscious of trying to be sustainable and save on cost. And I really appreciate the creativity that comes along with finding new ways to wear them. I mean, we've talked before of the pressure of feeling like you always have to have something new if you take a photo and put it on social media or something. And I think she is such a style icon for so many women. She's giving them permission to rewear outfits. And I love that. But the flip side of that is I have to admit, it is always so much fun to see a new outfit unveiled for the first time.
Yeah.
So I always do look forward to her, wowing us with something new. And I really think that's part of the reason why the James Bond premiere gown wowed so many people. It was a stunning dress, but it was also the first time we had seen her on the red carpet in a new gown in quite some time. But regarding the green dress, I love the color. I thought it was so beautiful. I loved the sparkle. I did see a few photos where it felt like maybe, it could have been the angle, but I felt like maybe it was a little bit too long. It was kind of dragging a little bit. Every time I see a dress like that, I always am afraid that they're going to trip or something if it's, dragging on the ground a little. But overall, I thought it was very classy. I thought it was flattering. And I don't know what your thoughts were on her hair. I would love to get
I
your
was gonna
thoughts.
ask you about her hair. I liked it, but a lot of people did not like it.
Yeah, so I was a little bit torn because normally I really do love the long, soft curls kind of wrapped to one side. It kind of shows off one shoulder and it's still kind of neat and in place. For some reason, I didn't love it at this event quite as much. I feel like her hairdresser maybe just missed the mark a little bit. It was super thick and healthy, which I really, really liked. And I saw some photos of it where I really liked it. And then there were other photos where I felt like the curls were a little bit messy, or maybe it almost looked like us here in Alabama stepping out with all the humidity where it gets a
Mhm.
little bit just a little bit tussled in a sort of a messy way. And I just kind of felt like with that dress, I would have loved to have seen something a little more polished, something an updo or something I might have liked with that dress. But I don't know. That was my thought. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, that particular dress is not my favorite dress from Kate. I don't know. I just the sparkly dresses, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a minimalist. They don't really it just doesn't really that material does not really do it for me. But I thought she looked gorgeous. A lot of people had comments about the hair. I liked the hair. I thought it kind of felt like old glamour to me.
Mhm.
But I always am gonna appreciate a Kate wow moment, like the actually it was Jenny Packham again in the gold glittery dress for the James Bond. But I also appreciate that, first of all, it's more sustainable to rewear and it's also more relatable. And and I can tell that she's trying when she rewears these pieces to do different hairstyles, try out different hairstyles, which is probably where that
Mhm.
hairstyle came from. And accessorize it a little bit differently. But I thought she looked beautiful. I thought, how cool is it that finally we're at a point in the pandemic where we can see Meghan and Kate have dazzling moments within a week of each other. I've missed that, especially Meghan. We never see Meghan anymore, but I thought Kate looked beautiful as ever. So this is old news by this point, but Meghan appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show on November 18th. This is her first talk show appearance since becoming a royal. There were a lot of cute snippets emerging from this conversation, but among them, Ellen convinced Meghan to adopt her dog, Bogart. This is years ago, pre Meghan had not met Harry yet. Lily is teething. For Halloween, Archie was a dinosaur and Lily was a skunk, but neither were into it. And apparently, right before their relationship went public in 2016, Harry and Meghan, along with Eugenie and Jack, went to a Halloween party in Toronto in full costume. I thought Meghan was very relatable, and I laughed so hard at the prank she played on vendors outside of the studio. What did you think?
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this. And this is where you and I are very different here because I didn't laugh. I didn't really find it funny.
Was hilariously when she said like what did she say like mama needs the milk or something like I thought that was hilarious.
I felt like it was like overly cheesy, like cringy a little bit. Um I don't know. I felt uncomfortable watching it the whole time. And I do have to say, I think the real actor in the whole bit was the poor girl behind the cookie table who had to like go along with it and pretend like, she was not thinking, what the heck?
No, but I think
Um,
that's what was so funny to me is these people are like Meghan Markle has lost it. Like she has lost it now. And like I thought that was I thought it was hilarious.
Well, so it did bring some questions to my mind, just the whole appearance on the Ellen show. My initial thought was, kind of what is her PR strategy going on the show? So I do feel a little bit confused on how she's wanting to shape her public image. I felt like it was really kind of in contrast with what we normally see from her. It did feel like sort of her version of Harry's appearance on the Late Late Show. Did you pick up on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, and I could see that.
Like they were
With
both very
the
like
prank
silly.
included. with the
silly, pranky, over the top kind of stuff. It was like her version of what he did with James Corden.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know if she's trying to change her public image, or if she's trying to connect with people differently and trying to be more relatable. I don't know. I was just kind of thinking of like the overall strategy that she took with wanting to go on the Ellen show. So I don't know. That was my thought.
Well,
And did
you've
you have
brought
any
up a
additional?
couple. Yeah, you brought up a couple things that you're kind of bringing a couple things to my attention. Number one, people usually go on the talk show circuit because they have something that they're going to promote, like whether it's a movie or a book
Mhm.
or a television show, and there really wasn't any, unless I missed it, any reason for her being, not that she has to have a reason. I mean, she can do whatever she wants, but also
Mhm.
I just thought of this as you were talking. Obviously Meghan is staunchly refuting anti-bullying accusations, but didn't Ellen have
Yeah.
bullying allegations leveled against her? So I know
Well,
they're friends.
that was part of my question with this is, I was surprised that she wanted to go on the Ellen show because Ellen's had really bad PR this last
Yeah.
year. So that's a really good point. That's a really good thing to bring up.
Well, I mean, I know obviously they're friends. I think they might even be neighbors and they hang out with each other. And she's probably, Meghan likely is doing this as a favor to a friend. But for, like you said, from a PR perspective, Ellen, Meghan's thing is compassion and kindness. That's Archewell's whole MO, right?
Mhm.
And especially someone that is staunchly, defending herself against workplace bullying allegations herself, going on a show where this is Ellen's last season, if I'm not mistaken, because in part at
Because
least
of the allegations.
of these workplace bullying allegations. So I mean, and if there were a reason for it to go on the show to promote the bench, or what, like, why didn't we do any of this around the release of the bench? I don't know. I've
Mhm.
never understood the royal family's PR strategy, and I'm starting to really not understand Archewell's either. But who am I to judge? But anyway, so anything else about Ellen? That was forever ago, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I've never really watched the show, but I did watch the clip with Megan, so I could, kind of get my thoughts and talk about it on here. But no, that was really my takeaway from it.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned previously, we saw the Queen welcome General Sir Nick Carter, not the Backstreet Boy. I
I
was like,
think that every time.
I was like, wait, what? Of all people, Backstreet Boy Nick Carter? No, it was not that Nick Carter. In person to Windsor Castle, I would have taken JC Chazé personally anyway, which was her first in-person engagement since her October 20th hospitalization. So I love to see her doing well. So some news from The Crown, which is currently shooting season 5. Cannot wait for this season. Dominic West will take over the role of Prince Charles, and Variety broke the news that Dominic's son, Sean West, I think it's misspelled, but I think it's Sean West, will play Prince William. So that's a strong father-son duo. We can't wait to see. Cannot wait for this season of The Crown. And new podcast alert, the BBC's Harry, Meghan, and the Media. That's what the podcast is called, Harry, Meghan, and the Media. So far, I've only heard the trailer, but I am compelled and intrigued and will be listening. I can't get enough of royal podcasts. So, speaking of the BBC, oh boy, there has been a lot of buzz about the recently aired documentary, The Princes and the Press. It was apparently so controversial that the Duchess of Cambridge pulled her recently announced charity carol concert off the network and switched to rival network ITV. Um, by the way, obviously here in the US, we have not seen The Princes in the Press. The second episode in the documentary came out, I believe, last night. And so I'm very anxious to see that because it's apparently controversial. So Kate will take a lead role in this charity carol concert at Westminster Abbey, which of course is where she was married. It will take place on December 8th and will raise funds for charities that the Cambridges care about. The special was due to air on the BBC, but after the documentary was released, which touches on William and Harry's relationship with the media, it has now been pulled to ITV. And even more surprising, this really must have gotten under the royal skin, was a rare joint statement from the three royal households representing the Queen, Prince Charles, and the Cambridges, which said, "A free, responsible, and open press is of vital importance to a healthy democracy. However, too often it is overblown and unfounded claims from unnamed sources that are presented as facts, and it is disappointing when anyone, including the BBC, gives them credibility." So, I mean, in the royals never complain, never explain culture, to hear a statement like this must mean it irked them and got under their skin. So what is your take on all of this? And that Kate pulled the special from the BBC and took it to ITV is, a pretty strong statement in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. I literally was going to say the two things that initially stuck out to me was her pulling the charity concert and the joint statement. And I actually, when I was putting my notes in here, I put, we talk a lot about the never complain, never explain mantra. And so I think the statement is pretty telling without coming right out and complaining and explaining. It sounds like the royal households are pretty upset about this and they don't agree with what's being reported in the documentary. I think they must feel it's inaccurate or unbalanced. It's really kind of hard to say without being on the inside. But I think if Her Majesty is involved in a joint statement from all three households, that's pretty serious and it's something that she feels strongly about. So I'm wondering how much the BBC will be negatively impacted in the long run if they lose the support of the royals.
Well, yeah, and the BBC is already on the royals, short list for the Martin
Sure.
Bashir situation.
Mhm.
And so I need our British listeners to do us a solid and slide into our DMs or email us and tell us what some of the most controversial parts of this documentary are, because we'll eventually get our hands on this documentary. But here in the US, when it's on the BBC, it takes forever. Like the Prince Philip documentary, we are just now getting to see it December 16th. It's been out for at least 3 months. So let us know what it says, because I want to know what has got them so up in arms.
Yeah, definitely. We would love to hear that. And I'm really surprised in today's world with all the technology that we have that it takes forever for us to get these things over
I
here
know.
in the US.
I know. But so the last news item under Royal Rundown, while we still don't, and honestly probably never will know what Prince Philip's will says, we do know where it is stored now. It, along with 32 other wills of other senior members of the royal family, is stored in a secret London safe in the care of High Court Judge Sir Andrew McFarlane at the Royal Courts of Justice. In addition to Philip's will, it has the Queen Mother's, Princess Margaret's, and the Duke of Windsor's. So I'm not really sure why we're finding this out right now, but cool. That's where it's at. We'll never know what it says, probably. So, huh?
I was just laughing about we know where it's at. It's in a secret location.
Exactly. Anyway, cool, I guess. And I want to know what it says, but I also realize it's none of my business. So, okay. Moving into segment 2, royals around the world, we have a whale of a new segment in this. Okay, in what I'm calling an unprecedented display of candor, Prince Albert of Monaco opened up about his wife, Princess Charlene, disclosing that she is receiving treatment in a facility outside of Monaco. This decision was made jointly by Albert and Charlene with assistance from Charlene's brothers. Albert told People that Charlene is suffering profound exhaustion, both emotional and physical, and that her care will last for several weeks at the minimum. Charlene's return to Monaco according to Albert, quote, went pretty well in the first few hours, and then it became pretty evident that she was unwell, end quote. So, and that's from Albert. So clearing up rumors, he continued, quote, I'm probably going to say this several times, but this has nothing to do with our relationship. I want to make that very clear. These are not problems within our relationship, not with the relationship between a husband and wife. It's of a different nature. Because I know there are rumors out there. Let me say this is not COVID and it's not cancer related. It's not a personal relationship issue. Did you get, Jessica, that it's not a personal relationship issue? Just to let you know,
I
it's
got
not.
it.
And if you wanted to, and this back to Albert, and if you want to discuss another speculation, it isn't related to plastic surgery or facial work at all. She had already made her decision, and we only wanted her to confirm it in front of us. She wanted this. She already knew the best thing to do was to go and have a rest and have a real medically framed treatment and not in Monaco. This is still Albert, by the way. This is like unprecedented royal
Yeah,
candor.
this is
Um,
extremely wrong.
no, and we're not even done. Back to Albert. For privacy reasons, it would have to be someplace outside of Monaco. She was very calm and very understanding. She realized herself that she needed help. You can't force anyone to understand that they need treatment. They have to accept that themselves. She was already in favor of it. We knew that. We only wanted it confirmed in front of us. We wanted to tell her that we love her so much and that we were there for her and that the most important aspect for her is her health, that she shouldn't worry about anything else, that we all love her. Still Albert, just for the record. I'm not leaving any of this out because I think this is fascinating. That we all love her, that her children love her, and that we only want the best for her. Charlene never asked to have these problems, but they are there, unfortunately, and we need space and privacy to address them. So I beg everyone to understand that, and please leave my family alone for the coming weeks. End quote. He also said that his faith has sustained him, that he is surrounded by family, friends, and great staff. This is Albert again quoting, I know we're not alone. We have the support and love and friendship around us from these people and by the citizens of Monaco. I know we'll get through this, end quote. So, I mean, that is like unprecedented, refreshing candor from a royal. I actually applaud Prince Albert and Princess Charlene for their strength. As always, we wish Charlene well. And by the way, a lot of people are calling this kind of creepy, like trotting the kids out. But on Monica's National Day on November 19th, Charlene and Albert's twins, Gabriella and Jacques, held signs on the balcony that read, we miss you, mommy, and we love you, mommy. That's a dagger to the heart. But a lot of people are saying that the children shouldn't be paraded around like that. And that's, I mean, I see it as sweet, but some people saw it as using the kids as pawns. So, I mean, that is unreal candor. I love your take on all of this. We've been talking about this story for like 6 months.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the first thing I want to say is, good for him for making a statement and setting the record straight. I sometimes struggle with the whole what's appropriate when it comes to royals sharing their personal lives. I think to an extent it's necessary given their platform and their leadership roles. Their people expect a certain level of transparency, but I think sometimes the public crosses the line on expecting extremely personal information. And, his statement, I mean, no joke, was very lengthy, but I think he did a great job of putting an end to rumors, especially about the relationship.
Just
But
to
he was
clarify, it's
also,
not the relationship. It's not the relationship.
it's not the relationship. So he put an end to those rumors, but he was also still careful to provide, not too much information. It's enough for us to kind of understand the issue at hand without going so deep that it feels like a violation of their personal lives. So, I think, it takes me back to a few weeks ago when Her Majesty was ill. There were a lot of people pushing to know more about, what was going on, but really, it kind of brings us back to this, how much of a person's personal health do we really have a right to know? And, I think Her Majesty also deserves her privacy. And I think Princess Charlene deserves her privacy now. So really sending many well wishes to the royal family of Monaco, praying for a smooth road to recovery, hoping they have a Christmas season that they can enjoy as a family. As far as the kids go, I don't really know how I feel about that. I guess I could kind of see both sides. I certainly think, you know, in their home life, if they want to make signs for their mom, I think that's really sweet. Did it need to be broadcast? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure
Yeah.
I have enough enough knowledge around that to have a really strong opinion one way or the other.
I'll tell you what though, this from back to front, I'm talking like from May into the present day. So 6 months of this. It's so doggone bizarre. Like
Mhm.
there, I mean, I say that we have refreshing candor from Albert, and that is refreshing candor, but despite that candor, I still feel like there's so much we don't know. And like we are only getting a fraction of this story. And I mean, I think we all have speculations about what it could be. I refuse to say that on air because what's going to happen is the tabloids are just going to pick that up and they're going to twist my words. So I'm not even going to speculate, but I mean he basically ruled everything out, but you
Mhm.
know, a couple of a couple of scenarios here.
Mhm.
And you know, I just all I can say, and I'm comfortable enough speaking for you too, is that we wish Charlene well and whatever will contribute to her best physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. That's what we want for her.
For sure.
But I'm telling you, since the beginning, I'm talking about since their wedding day, this marriage has been bizarre to me. And so I promise you that this is going to be, they will do a crown season about Albert and Charlene in like 20 years. I'm telling you, it's wild. But anyway, in much lighter news, I loved seeing two of our favorite European royal families, the Swedish royal family and the Spanish royal family, join forces for a state dinner, tiaras and all. So the Swedish royals hosted King Philippe and Queen Letizia of Spain for a state visit, including a state banquet at the Royal Palace in Stockholm. This marked the first Spanish state visit to Sweden in over 40 years, and I thought everyone looked beautiful. So
Yeah, I saw the photos. I was really noticing Princess Sophia's dress and her tiara was really
mhm.
lovely.
I love both of those families. Those are two of our favorites. And so is Monaco. But I mean, my gosh, Monaco is just a roller coaster right now. But well, anything else for the good of the order before we move into segment 3?
I don't think so. It's been a great royal rundown. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we got 2 weeks worth of stuff. So apologies for some of the outdated news by this point, but I'm so excited for you to listen to segment 3 with our interview with Christopher Andersen. I think this is one of our best conversations yet. And we were thrilled to chat with veteran biographer Christopher Andersen about his brand new book, Brothers and Wives. It is already a bombshell of a book and it just came out yesterday. Actually, it came out today, November 30th. But by the time you're listening to it, it will be yesterday. Take a listen to our conversation.
We are so excited to have on the show today Christopher Andersen, author of the brand new and I'm sure soon to be bestseller Brothers and Wives Inside the Private Lives of William, Kate, Harry, and Meghan, released yesterday, November 30th. Christopher is a well known and well regarded biographer, and this is nowhere near even his first biography of the royals. We tore apart books like 1998's The Day Diana Died, 2001's Diana's Boys, William and Harry, and the Mother They Loved, 2007's After Diana, William, Harry, Charles, and the Royal House of Windsor, 2010's William and Kate, A Royal Love Story, and most recently 2016's Game of Crowns, Elizabeth, Camilla, Kate, and the Throne. To call him a royal expert would be an understatement. So, welcome to the show, Christopher. We are so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm exhausted just hearing about that. I mean, it tires me out to hear that.
Are you like, my gosh, I wrote all of those books?
Who did that? I woke up.
Well, so obviously, this is certainly not the first time you've written about these two brothers, William and Harry. We just read out your royal titles above. But what compels you about the two of them, both individually and as brothers?
Well, first of all, it kind of horrifies me to say this, but I've been covering the royal family for almost 50 years now.
Yeah.
I covered the Silver Jubilee when the Queen was 50 years old in
Wow.
London, the 25th anniversary on the throne, and she's coming up, as you know, by the way, her platinum anniversary is next year, 70 years on the throne, and that's 7 more than Queen Victoria, more than any other monarch. But back to your question about the brothers, it's the family dynamic, but of course it's all cast. It's history. I call it the world's longest running soap opera. It's got all the great elements that you want in a story, and it's always. There's always a new wrinkle. There's always some new, not just a new scandal, but a new development, sadly, a new tragedy, and so, the story just never gets old. You just can't make this stuff up.
That's what we say all the time, Christopher. You can't make this up, because we cover it week to week. And if you would have told us what would have happened in 2021, we wouldn't have believed you.
No, exactly. And I think, look at the Queen's situation. I'm sure she has, it's amazing what she's endured over the decades, but just in the last year, here she is, she's lost her husband. We're still in the midst of COVID. She's got to deal with Brexit. And she wants all decks on hand to help her with this. And what does she find? She gets chaos, basically, handed to her. And she deals with it, and she's very businesslike. I mean, when Meghan and Harry decided to make their exit, she loves her grandson. She loves all her grandchildren, but she's all business when it comes to the firm. And she said, you're either in or all the way, or you're out. And I think that's been the approach. And it's kind of stunned Harry, obviously. Being stripped of his military ceremonial titles, of course, was a huge blow to him. He didn't expect that. Almost lost their HRH status. I mean, they were allowed to keep it, but it was touch and go there for a while. So, you're right. Absolutely. A lot of stuff happening in just the last year.
Yeah.
Well, we know a lot has also happened since 2007's After Diana, which is the last time you wrote about William and Harry together. So I'm wondering, what compelled you to write this new book?
Well, again, so much has happened, and so much is constantly happening. I think, the rift between the brothers is some. And when I wrote Diana's Boys in 2021, they seemed like their union was rock solid. I mean, they would lean on each other very heavily. But the seeds of their rift really had already been planted. I mean, even in childhood. And I think, we now see the long-term results of that. I mean, going back to Diana and how she treated the boys, we all know how she was the one who molded them, shaped them. She was the person who took them to the amusement parks and the go-kart tracks and McDonald's and KFC, which was her favorite, fast food restaurant. She also took them to the homeless centers and battered women's shelters and that sort of thing. So they are carrying on her humanitarian legacy, but all along, Harry knew he was second best. I mean, there's a poignant photo in the book where Harry's got his first day at school, and he arrives at the school, and he's greeted by the headmistress. He sticks out his hand, this little boy, and she reaches right over his head to shake William and Charles's hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing. He was in the back seat of the car wrestling with William, told by the nanny Olga Powell to just stop it, and Harry says at the age of 4, William has to behave because he's going to be king, but I'm not going to be king, so I can do anything I want. And so I think that's how long he's known, how long, and of course the resentment just built up with the famous Rattlebone incident, where he was 16 and caught smoking pot and drinking, and man, he was just pilloried in the press. And William's the guy who took him there, and yet William got no heat at all.
Yeah.
The same thing went later on with the wearing the Nazi uniform in 2005 to a costume party. As you know, the world went crazy when he did that. Well, William helped get that costume out, and William did not come to his defense, and he didn't was not criticized. And by the time the Vegas incident happened, where Harry was, caught in the nude photographs of him with a girl in the hotel room in Las Vegas. He was really starting to crumble emotionally. And finally, William steps up and says, look, this is not right. You need actual help, professional help. And he got it because of William. So it took a long time. They just have this interesting back and forth relationship. And sadly, I think this rift that's going on now really would have broken Diana's heart, frankly.
Oh, no question about it. And we're going to unpack this in a little bit about the heir and spare dynamic and how I think that is a doomed to fail relationship.
Right.
But we have to go right there. Probably one of the juiciest parts of the book is in the book. You answer the question that has had tongues wagging ever since the Harry, Meghan, and Oprah interview back in March. You write that it was Charles who was overheard by the men in gray suits speaking to wife Camilla over breakfast at Clarence's house about the skin tone of any future children of Harry and Meghan. This is one of the major bombshells of the book. How did you react when you found out? Because the list was getting shorter and shorter, right? But it is in fact Charles that said those words according to the book.
Right. And I have to say that, this is from, rock solid sources. I was able to track this back to this conversation. Now, I really have to preface this by saying, well, I'm a grandfather, and I can tell you, we speculate, fondly about what your grandkids are going to look like, the color of the eyes, hair, complexion, everything. And that's what was going on then. But this innocent conversation between Charles and Camilla was picked up and kind of morphed or in this kind of grotesque way into something entirely different. And by the time it got back to Harry, he was very concerned. He was hearing that in fact there was talking in among royals about what the child's skin color might be and how that might affect the image of the royal family. And he went back to his family and asked them what was going on. And Charles thought he was just overreacting, frankly. And William supports his father always. And Harry says he was kind of shocked at the talk, but that was the genesis of the remark. Again, it kind of absolves the royal family. Racism, I don't think exists in the royal family. I think it definitely exists in among palace officials, certain ones, and that's how it got back to Harry, unfortunately.
Well, the book also clarifies that it was Meghan's close friend and fashion designer Misha Nonu that introduced Harry and Meghan in 2016. Can you talk about that with us?
Well, it was just that was, one of those incidents where royal insiders. It's been speculated about who did it, but in fact, she was the one who brought them together.
Yeah. So the vast majority of the book, I told you we would touch on this in a moment. Here we go. Speaks to the relationship between William and Harry as brothers and best friends. Their bond cemented through their roller coaster childhood, their parents' divorce, and of course their mother's tragic death. They used to be so close. I remember, I grew up with the boys. William was born in 82, Harry in 84, me in 86. So I grew up with them. They were, as you've written in your previous books, they were best friends. But with the ever-present royal heir and spare dynamic, there was built-in tension. You write, quote, Harry was never on the Queen's mind the way William was, said one of Charles's deputy private secretaries. It was just understood that William was going to be king and he was the one who mattered. Harry was always left on the sidelines. You also write, because he was born to be number two, Harry tried to be number one in other ways as a child. And as an adult, Harry said, they, meaning security officers, don't bother about me. I'm not the important one. William is. So we saw this play out with Elizabeth and Margaret. We saw this to a lesser degree because there were 4 siblings play out with Charles and his siblings. Is the heir and spare dynamic doomed to fail, making one brother the obviously more important one?
I think so, and I think it takes a real emotional toll. What of course complicated everything here is, these kids were raised in turmoil before Diana ever had her tragic accident, died. They were caught in the crossfire of their parents. They loved both of their parents. But obviously, it was the battle of Charles and Diana was epic and lasted for years and was bitter and nasty and very public. And here are these two children who have to handle it. And William was kind of Harry's protector. So in a sense, I mean, I think the kind of dynamic that existed between Charles and Andrew and Anne and Edward, it was very different. I mean, they were very different groups of people. The older two, Anne and Charles, the younger two. There were favorites. Of course, the Queen's favorite was always Prince Andrew, but they never all bonded. Even though Anne and Charles were closer, they never bonded to the extent that William and Harry did. But indeed, I think that in the end, and what we saw happen when William grew up, I mean, when the two boys grew up and Harry was an adult and he realized, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? I've always been in the shadow of my brother, and I'm floundering. He coped with it better, I think, than Meghan. I mean, Meghan was somebody coming into this from another world, and Harry was used to being second best. Meghan wasn't. And so that further complicated things. I mean, I've got in the book, you talk about this, the bond and the, from the early days. I mean, I still am kind of shaken when I read about and hear about their reaction to walking behind their mother's casket. I mean, there's that quote from there they are walking. It's a 12-year-old boy and his 15-year-old brother. They're kind of forced to do this, walking through the streets of London, and they hear a little girl in the crowd saying, "Look, Mummy, it's the box with the princess." It's the kind of thing that it's the defining moment in their life. I think was that walk more than anything else, and they're still living with it. And of course, all the psychological problems. I talk about their PTSD, suffering from symptoms of PTSD in the book, which I don't think has been really dealt with enough. But you're right. I think that indeed it's not good to be put into that kind of heir and spare relationship. Is it doomed to fail? It's doomed to go through all sorts of ups and downs. I mean, we'll have to see ultimately if William and Harry can come together again.
Well, we've got another relationship that we want to touch on. So in 2010, William popped the question to Kate with Diana's famous sapphire and diamond engagement ring. And we know this ring was originally handed down to Harry after her death, but since Harry was nowhere near proposing to anyone in 2010, he let William have it because, as you write, Kate was at this point really special to Harry as well. In more recent years, though, of course, the brothers have struggled with their relationship. So we're wondering, what is the relationship like between Harry and Kate today?
I think it's good. I mean, of course, it's not as good as it was. But they've always been somewhat close. I mean, he's always viewed her as the sister he never had. Mm-hmm. Of course, it gets complicated when you have the situation like the one between Meghan and Kate, and the incident where Meghan supposedly made Kate cry when they argued about whether the flower girls at Meghan's wedding should wear tights or not. And in fact, Meghan said Kate made her cry, mm-hmm. but Alice kind of spun it the other way to make Meghan look like a villain. All of the people, husbands tend to side with their wives or find themselves caught between these in-laws in these in-law situations. But still, I think they're as friendly as one can be. But the problem is there is such a distance now between William and Harry. William is not returning Harry's phone calls. William and Harry's not talking to Charles. Mm-hmm. Charles is pretty much cut him off for the moment. So it's tough. I mean, they've made a choice, and the Sussexes have, and it's complicated things.
So for a while, Harry was kind of the third wheel to William and Kate, watching mm-hmm. them marry, then begin to have children. All the while, he desperately wanted the same. And then, of course, in 2016, Harry meets Meghan, and he's almost instantly besotted with her. Right. In the book, you quote William telling Charles, "I feel as if I've lost my best friend," which right. broke my heart as Harry was suddenly enamored with Meghan. And of course, flying to Canada and back and forth to be with her. Is this where our modern day troubles begin?
I think Yes, I think to an extent this is the catalyst for the current rift. Again, I mean, it's something that's been brewing their entire lives. Again, because as we said, the air and spirit dynamic. But Meghan's fascinating. I think the Queen, for example, has got to have some. It's got to kind of be stirring up memories of Wallace Simpson. It really has to. I mean,
Yeah.
that other American divorcee, it, it's incredibly, she was a wild card and injected into all of this, and it's it's been interesting to see how they've handled it or failed to handle it. The way they made their exit was fascinating. I read about how they were negotiating in late 2019 to get out, to come up with some sort of a situation where they could live in the States part-time, be kind of part-time royals. Wasn't working, and the Queen made her statement in the kind of subtle way she does, and that was during her Christmas message, which is called the Queen's Most Gracious Speech. I love that title. Leaving them out of the display of family photographs on the table at Windsor when she makes her televised address. And Harry saw it, and William knew Harry would be hurt by that. Someone said it was like he was being erased from the family. Indeed, when they made their statement on January 8th, Meghan and Harry were together and stood behind that. But yes, I would say that Meghan's entry into the picture, kind of hastened this current split.
In your expert opinion, do you think the relationship between the brothers is repairable?
Well, I do. The trouble is, we'll have to wait and see what other bombshells occur. I mean, Harry has this book in the works, supposedly, and which he's going, maybe spilling the beans, more revelations about his family. I think that his father and grandmother and the rest of the royal family are bracing for whatever there. They've been hurt by some of the comments and statements that have been made. But yes, I do. And of course, we have to look at the next monarch. I mean, preparation. The Queen is 95. We can see she does have some health problems. Charles is already planning for his reign, and he really was counting on having Harry and Meghan standing up with him and Camilla and William and Kate on that balcony at Buckingham Palace. He needed Harry, frankly, to shore up his popularity. I mean, if he is going to have any kind of a reign at all, Charles III is going to have to, win over the British public. Right now, polls still show that the vast majority of Britons want William to succeed the Queen. That's not going to happen. And of course, Charles wants to sell the British public on Camilla as Queen, and that's not a popular idea right now. So, I mean, in a sense, Charles needs Harry on board. So maybe as a matter of, expedience, they'll work out something. On the other hand, if Charles holds his ground and kind of digs in, Harry might find himself sidelined, because Charles also wants to streamline the monarchy. He talks about a slimmed down monarchy in which there are fewer, kicking some royals off the payroll. And who knows? I mean, Harry might remain on the outside forever.
It's going to be very fascinating to see how or what changes happen when Charles' reign begins. But you write of how Harry wanted out of the firm long before he even met Meghan. You also write of Diana's dreams of moving to Malibu one day, which Harry is, of course, now living out his own California dream. So could you have foreseen this chapter of Harry's life before the January 8th, 2020 step back announcement?
Not to this extent. I mean, of course, Diana was planning on living part-time in Malibu. She and Dodie had the house all ready to go. But I think she could understand why Harry would want to spend time in the U.S. It was one of their favorite places, and specifically in California, in that part of California. But I think she would have, been saddened by the fact that Harry has sort of turned his back on his birthright. And I think she would have thought that. She was very much one of a person who saw her sons as her revenge. She wanted them to be a central, play a full part in the monarchy in the future. And so I don't think she would have, I mean, again, this is my feeling, but I don't think she would necessarily approve of him stepping back so entirely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really interested to know what the most exciting or interesting or surprising piece of research you gleaned from writing this book was. And my first thought was it the Charles bit, or was it something else we've talked about?
Well, the Charles thing is fascinating because it shows how, it reminds you of that children's game of telephone, where somebody whispers something to somebody. Mm-hmm. By the time it gets to the 10th person, it's something entirely different. And then it was a huge uproar. I was fascinated by the degree to which William, everyone's talking about Harry's problems, but William has gone through hell as well. And, he has spoken rather movingly about how depressed he was becoming, kind of spiraling into this depression because of the work he did as an air ambulance pilot. He was seeing mayhem and accidents on a daily basis. He was up close and personal, all sorts of death and tragedy. He felt, he said, I feel death is just around every corner, everywhere I go at the time. And he, really needed some help. And fortunately he got it too. And all of this led to the formation of Heads Together, which is their mental health initiative. I mean, you have to give the brothers credit for breaking down all barriers and walls and kind of removing the stigma from that. The whole issue, by the way, of suicide is fascinating to me in the royal family, because as we know, even though, Meghan has a husband, one thing Diana didn't have, Meghan has a husband who loves her and is faithful to her and supports her. But she just does have to go through and has had to go through a lot of the pressures of royal life, which are incredible, and deal with the palace intrigue and all of that. Diana was moved to attempt to take her own life. She threw herself down the stairs at Sandringham, if you recall, when she was pregnant with William. I mean, she's stabbed herself numerous times, threw herself into a glass cabinet, many suicide attempts that she talked openly about. And along comes Meghan 20 years later and says, gee, I felt the same way. I was at the brink of taking my own life. So, these are the people that we look at and say, my gosh, they've got everything in the world. What's their problem? Well, there's a downside to royal life, big one.
To say the least, right? Absolutely. So our last question for you is, where do we go from here? If you were a betting man, what would the next chapter of this family entail? Or said differently, what will your next royal book be about if you were a betting man?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're looking at a transitional phase here. There's that, I think it was revealed when Philip passed away, that each of the royals has a funeral plan, the senior royals. And his was, they're called bridges. So he was the fourth bridge for the Firth of Forth, because he was the Duke of Edinburgh. And the Queen's is London Bridge. But these are more than just, in her case, it's really the plans for the transition. And this has been going on, obviously, for many years now. What's it going to be like with Charles on the throne? And it's going to follow us, if the Queen passes away, she's the most famous human being who's ever lived, in a sense. 99% of the people on the planet have only known a world with the Queen in it. That'll be we anticipate this. She's 95 years old, but at the same time, it's going to come as a shock no matter what. And then, of course, the shift to Charles. There's going to be all sorts of, the word intrigue keeps coming back, but there's just going to be a lot of maneuvering, and all eyes will be on him to see what he does. And given the state of the relationship between the Sussexes and the Cambridges, and the fact that Camilla is sitting there and Charles very much wants to make her queen, there's going to be a lot to write about.
As much as we've ridden a roller coaster in 2021, I believe 2022's roller coaster will be even more up and down. It will be a ride.
I agree totally, because things are also moving at a much faster pace, I think, too. And Harry and Meghan, they've made it pretty clear that they want to be heard, and they're going to be, I'm sure, next year.
Absolutely.
Well, I wish we had another hour to unpack this book, which is filled with so many insights. Listeners, the book Brothers and Wives Inside the Private Lives of William, Kate, Harry, and Meghan is on shelves now. And thank you so much for being here today, Christopher. This has been a really, really awesome interview, and we've really enjoyed talking with you.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure entirely. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed him so much.
I did too. It was such a great conversation, and he shared so much wonderful, interesting content. I hope our listeners really enjoyed that as much as we did.
Yeah, he has an invitation to come back anytime. That we could have probably talked for another hour. I think we said that after we got off of the interview, that he was.
Yeah, we did.
He was so compelling and fascinating. So listeners, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Podcast Royal. Email us at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. Unless you're trying to sell us Norton 360 antivirus, you can stop emailing us about that. We've gotten probably 25 spam emails over the last week about that. We are not interested, but thank you so much for reaching out. And don't forget to follow, rate, and review our podcast. Episode 47. What an episode. So we look forward to chatting with you next week, and we hope you have a great week. Bye.
Bye.